Whew. Thank you for letting me know. Okay. I already started talking. I was just telling you, don't worry. Don't worry about not reading the books yet. For like not being in the position to read any of the books. I don't expect everyone to join to have read the books. I am totally cool with people just listening, and if you come out of this experience wanting to read any of the books or wanting to read any book at all, that is ultimately the goal, because I do promote literacy. I do definitely promote literacy, and especially finding out that Gen Alpha, a lot of Gen Alpha can't read. I'm like, okay, well now I feel more passionate about having to do this. And hey, King! Also, I'm glad you love reading. See, like, it's just like, I want to promote it. Like, reading is cool. Reading is a cool thing. Yeah, but also, I don't actually need to wear glasses. I'm just doing it for the vibes. I'm doing it as the little librarian vibes. These are actually blue light glasses. My roommate lent them to me. I might want to get my own pair, because if I'm just gonna have to be staring at screens all the time, that might be good. That might be good for me. Anyway, so like before we start, I will say, just important thing about it's fashion over function, yeah. But an important thing like I wanna talk about is, like, I understand that reading might not be something that everyone can readily do. I know Duck, for example, has dyslexia. That's a very real thing. Also, ADHD people, like I probably am, sometimes it is just hard to sit down and to read. That's why I also recommend audiobooks. If it's like you're too busy and you're out and about, you're traveling, you're commuting, whatever, listening to audiobooks is really great. Sometimes I'm doing like price markdowns at my job. I listen to audiobooks while I do that. So, you know, there are ways. And I'm just like, as long as you're engaging with literature and you're learning things, and it doesn't have to be nonfiction, it can be fiction. Fuck, it could be smut. You can still gain valuable skills from reading anything. Manhwa. Like, it's fine. As long as you are reading, as long as you're engaging with literature, it's all good. I don't believe in like being a purist about these things. It can gravitate towards the ableism territory. Why are you licking my boobs? Oh, your meetup on Sunday went well. Oh, I'm glad to hear it. That's good to hear. Okay, and then also to explain my background a little bit with reading and teaching reading and stuff like that. Because yeah, I think it's important to discuss this. I was an AP student. I was an AP English student. We did spend a lot of time when like we read going over plot, setting, characters, themes. And like same thing with poetry. So like there was a lot of literary analysis that I had to do growing up. And then also like I got my degree in art education, minor in Spanish education. My first job post bachelor degree was teaching reading. I taught reading from like ages like pre-K to 12th grade. And it wasn't just like teaching little kids how to read, it was also like with high schoolers. They were reading Lord of the Rings. And also learning how to read nonfiction. So I do have a little bit of a background with this stuff, so I'm not gonna just be pulling shit out of my ass. So yeah, it's like I actually like have some like professional experience. Anyway, probably not completely necessary for making a book club, but I do care about credibility. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with learning from simplified books that are designed for young children and people who struggle. Yes. Yes. Because an important thing is accessibility. And like, especially with like Gen Alpha that's like not able to read, a lot of it could be learned helplessness. So it could be that they had an embarrassing experience trying to learn how to read and they gave up. That could be part of it. I know a lot of it is social media and being raised on iPads. But it's like young readers need to be encouraged that it's okay to make mistakes. And then develop that skill. And if they're older and never had that foundation, that can be even more difficult. So, anyway, I feel weird not having something to listen to, so I want to see if I can like play music or something. All right. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I did listen to it a little bit when preparing for this. Um, just want to see if I can do it through OBS. Okay. Um, and I just realized I'm not seeing chat on the my actual screen that's streaming, so I might just do this. It means I'm gonna have to set this up different once I do regular streaming. I'll make sure. You had to read Mice and Men out loud in your English literature class? Oh, Jesus. That's intense. That's an intense thing to have to read out loud. Oh yeah, I mean I did have to do that with like students in Korea too. Like, you know, I had to teach reading in Korea, so it's like I got multiple years of experience. But it's just like specifically teaching reading, it was that summer. Yeah, sometimes you guys hear me struggle to read out loud, and I'm a decent reader. Yeah, it is a completely normal thing to be better at reading like in your head. Okay. Let's see if let me see if this works. I might have to turn it down. That way YouTube doesn't scream at me and say, you can't monetize this video. Alright. I might have to put Shoo Shoo down eventually. So I just want to share like how I engaged with reading this book, because I think, you know, there are some useful strategies for reading that I think is important to share. I hope this stuff is helpful and fascinating, but there's strategies. So like what I did was I organized it like that. So character plot right here, and chapter, I did mostly chapter summaries for that. Characters, setting, and then I just, you know, kept going. I kept going. I like putting stars for like the heading, and that is kind of how I do my okay, this is a little loud for me, it's distracting. Okay. Okay, yeah, like it's important to like find your method of note taking. And it's like it's important to use headings, subheadings, bold. Um, like having a good way to organize it. You can even use highlighters. Highlighters is a good way. But like then, you know, that's if you're doing a like deep literary analysis. You do not have to do that every time you read. Another good method is to write notes in the margin of the book. I do that sometimes, where I'm just like, oh, this reminds me of this experience, or like, you know, my own spin on a concept. That can be really helpful with engaging with the literature. Yeah. Putting Shushu down, you mean to sleep or permanently? No, I'm putting him down off my lap. Video essay method? Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna put him down. Shushu. Okay, he might bark a lot. You guys can hear the music? Probably not very loud. Okay. So, okay. But before we actually get into it, another like useful strategy, read the back cover. And then this book was useful because it actually had characters. And oh, I skipped this setting. It's more about if I can hear the music because I need it. Yeah, but anyway. Yep, so it's already right here. That was really helpful. That was really helpful to me before I even started reading the book. I actually read these captions and took notes on these captions. And so then when I was reading the book, I already had that pre-knowledge. So this method is actually called pre-reading. You read the back cover, you look at the front cover. Because yes, like, don't judge a book by its cover, but you can tell a lot about a book by the cover sometimes. So that is a good method. Also, reading the table of contents. Because those are headings. Those are headings and will give you a general idea of what the chapter is going to be about. That way you are already going in there with that pre-knowledge. Blurbs are important and helpful, yes. Yeah, Rigdia. Rigdia was so cool. I can't wait to talk about Rigdia. No, not Rigdia. Rigdia. We'll talk about him. Yeah, and then also reading this helped me understand FF XIII-2 better. So. Anyway, so we will get into it. I will be taking notes on what you guys say. Because you guys have important things to share. Like especially King, who's actually read this. So. Yeah, he is an Aragorn looking dude. Sid's boyfriend. Oh, yeah, for real. I'll show you. Oh. I guess I could then show an actual picture of him. Okay. So I think what we should start with is talking about setting. So from what I gained from reading the book and reading the captions for the locations section, Shushu. So after the fall, like Cocoon, like it was a mess. Yeah, he was a pretty minor character, so that makes sense. Cocoon was a mess. Of course, like Fang and Vanille created the pillar that was holding up Cocoon. Oh, you're fine, Dream. You're fine. So what ended up happening, like first they had to evacuate. They had to evacuate people because, you know, it was a lot of damage. So a lot of people migrated to Pulse. They fled Cocoon, migrated to Pulse. the survivors of the Purge at the beginning of the game of FF13 in Old Bodham found a seaside area on Grand Pulse to make New Bodham. And that's, you know, where Sarah teaches. Okay. Arc-like Steppe is where actually Psychom flees to, which we will talk about later. Palampolum, where Hope's dad lives, becomes the new capital. It becomes the new capital under the provincial government. We will talk about the provincial government later too. Yeah, so, but yeah, in Palampolum is where like Rigdia is at. So Rigdia and the other cavalry, they headed the evacuation. Yeah, we'll talk more, we'll talk a lot about Rigdia later. Rigdia is badass. I love Rigdia. Saz continues to live there too. He becomes a pilot. Well, he was already a pilot, but shut up! Okay, I might have to pawn him off to my roommate. So he like helps with the evacuation. Okay, yeah, I got to the wrong part of my notes. This was not in the section of setting, but he's going around with Dodge. Dodge stays with him. And yeah, I think that's it for setting. Yeah, basically, like, a lot of people, like, still felt attached to their home and Cocoon, so they just dealt with the fallout. And then a lot of them moved to Grand Pulse. But it was a struggle because the infrastructure... Let me just take Shushu out of here. I can't focus. Shushu! Stay around here. I first saw and my background with teaching reading. Yeah. Okay, thank God for my roommate. Okay. Yeah, so a lot of the infrastructure that was in place when Sanctum and yeah, the Sanctum and the Cocoon, like those Fal'Cie were in control. Like obviously when they're gone, the Fal'Cie left. A lot of shit was in shambles. They had to rough it. They definitely had to rough it. And then on Pulse, there's monsters, so they had to like fight monsters in order to make it livable. So that is basically. Oh yeah, Eden, that used to be the capital under the Fal'Cie. Obviously, that had the brunt of the damage, so it's not livable there. So that's why they moved the capital to Palampolum. Anyway, I don't know if there's anything anybody wants to add to that. But yeah, that's the environment where this is all going on. Yes. Oh. Yeah. King, was that accurate? Because King is the expert. Yeah, Old Bodham. Okay. Yeah, if you guys are good with that explanation, and don't have anything to add, we can move on to characters because that's funner. Okay, that's accurate. Good. Okay. Well, first I want to talk about lightning. So like especially the first chapter, which I think, you know, we're gonna go deep into each chapter later. It's called Imaginary and Real, and it talks about, you know, what everyone decides to do right immediately after Cocoon falls. And by fall, not legitimately Cocoon falling, that happens later. Yeah, so what everyone's doing, and then like lightning ends up disappearing. But it's more like Sarah has two sets of memories and she's the only one that remembers the other one. So there was a, like, it goes by the point of view of each character. And when it went to Lightning's, there's a couple paragraphs that I was just like, oh, this gives me a lot more context into Lightning as a character that I think people need to understand better. Let's see. Well, first it's about how she views Snow, that I think it's important. So it's on page 15. And it says, until not so long ago, taking care of Sarah had been her job. Lightning remembered fondly the days she'd spend leading her by her tiny little hand as they walked along. The time had come to entrust that role to someone else. Well, maybe Snow had taken that position some time ago. Lightning had just never realized. At first, she'd thought Snow was all talk, so she didn't know when his words had started to encourage her too. He had given her the strength to push forward, maybe because everything that came out of his mouth was genuine. That honesty gave his words a power that moved people to action. So we're talking about Snow here too, and we'll talk more about him later. But it's the important thing is a lot of her motivation was centered around taking care of Sarah. And so like naturally, like I kind of think of like my mom, for example, really struggled with being an empty nester because all of her energy was put towards raising her kids. And she was a very good mom in a lot of ways, a really shitty mom in a lot of other ways. But it's like, you know, the really good ways I remember fondly, and that's, you know, I still hold that in high esteem. But like a lot of her thing was realizing that she doesn't have to have that responsibility anymore, because Sarah has another person that is there for her. And then also Snow is a dopey, empty head, no thoughts kind of guy, but because he's just so straightforward and honest and genuine, that he does make a good leader because he's very motivating. Which, yeah, we'll talk more about later. Another paragraph that I think is like very good about giving context about Lightning, says, Lightning had wanted to grow up quickly to better take care of Sarah, so she wanted Hope to enjoy the fullest what little remained of his childhood, especially now that he'd lost his mother. So I guess this, you know, is about Hope too. She had to grow up too fast in order to be there for her sister. And Hope unfortunately grows up way too fast too. So yeah, and it talks later about how her perspective changed during their journey in the first game. How her motivation was Sarah and was getting Sarah back. But then when she especially ended up on Grand Pulse, she saw how tiny Cocoon was compared to the rest of the world. And just having that as a shock was a change in perspective, that she's like, no, my dream is to have everyone be living together and to have peace for everyone. And it says she wanted to protect the future of all the people living on this great planet. So that that perspective shifted from wanting to protect Sarah and wanting to save Sarah to everybody. So like I feel like Lightning just has a very strong sense of responsibility. Grew up way too fast, wants to take care of the people that she cares about, and that's no longer just Sarah. It's the whole world. Lightning saw herself in Hope, yes. Which is why she shut down Operation Nora and tried to get him to communicate with Snow and his dad. Yes. Yes. That's why I think the game like put them together for a while. When it's just the two of them. Is because she saw a lot of herself in him. I 100% agree. So what I just read was in Sarah's other memories. In the memories that everyone else has, they think that she's either part of the pillar or she left. It's more like they think she's part of the pillar. Hope also found her knife under the pillar. So yeah, like she's gone. She's gone and everyone thinks she's a part of the pillar except Sarah. Sarah's the only one who has the other set of memories. So I guess we could talk about Sarah. Sarah, she ended up moving to New Botham. I'll highly recommend reading episode 0 because the flashbacks of Lightning's childhood. We will definitely do that for a future book club. That's a good idea. Yes, let's keep talking about Lightning then before I move on to Sarah. I always loved how Lightning grows during 13 and her bond with Hope. I'm glad that this book highlights and develops that a little bit. Only a tiny bit. This is the only time you really get to see things from Lightning's perspective, because she's disappeared. But it was like what was there, I was like, oh, this gives more context and makes me pissed off that people hate her. They just don't understand. Okay, so I better take notes. Okay. Oh, I wish I had like cookies to go with this tea. Okay. So yeah, we can move on to Sarah then, it looks like. So like I said before, she moved to New Botham with Snow and Nora. Yeah, she has hazy memories of seeing Lightning after waking from crystal stasis. She also, like in that first chapter, she has this epiphany that she wants to be a teacher. Because she reflects back on her education and it was all like sanctum propaganda. Like, it's, you know, you hear that like history was written by the victors. It was very much that. And like a lot of that information is false. And so she had this passion and desire to teach the rising generation how to think critically and how to have accurate information. And that is something we will definitely talk more about later because there is a chapter focused on that. But it's like one of the reasons why I felt passionate about teaching, and like I don't want to teach anymore because I don't like dealing with behavior. Yeah, Sarah surprised me. She does have strength. It's just, you know, different from Lightning's. But it's like I feel the same way. I feel very failed by the education system I grew up under. Yeah, her character does not revolve around Snow. She actually does have a lot of depth to her. Yeah, also a good thing, like a cool thing about her is she doesn't accept things at face value. She will vocalize that, be like, okay, this is a little weird, and it's weird that you guys are not questioning it. And it's through her figuring out that there are some weird things going on, and her questioning it, that it opens other people's eyes. So, like, Sarah's underrated. I definitely think Sarah is underrated. Yeah. So, and you know, like, that's another thing, like, I think people need to, like, realize, like, Sarah is not there just to be, Snow's, like, arm candy. Yes, she's very intelligent. Yeah. She also, like, doesn't want to be a fighter. Yeah. And, like, we'll talk more about that later. Okay. Many of Sarah's choices in that game originate from not taking things at face value. Yes. Yes. I'll write that down. She's also a very deep thinker. And if she doesn't know something, she'll be like, okay, I'm gonna take the time to figure out the answer and then I will get back to you. Which I think is very great. Like, especially when you're a teacher, you shouldn't be talking out of your ass. Because the kids will take it and run with it, and then they'll, like, if they're young enough, I look like Quistis? Yes! Yes! Thank you. But yeah, like, kids, like, they like, are innocent. And they're just gonna, like, believe whatever adults tell them to and run with it. So if you're giving, hi Duck, if you're giving false information to a child, this is coming from experience. Oh, it's bad. And then you have to, like, backpedal and be like, okay, I said this thing wrong. Or whatever, so that's a good thing about her. I had another thought about her and it left. Shit. Hopefully it comes back to me. Hopefully it comes back to me. Oh, that's gonna drive me crazy. Shit. Alright, well, if I remember while talking about another character, I will go. Oh, I remember. Okay. So I think we can move on to Snow. So, like, after the fall and, like, the pillar, yeah, I think it was Snow. Well, it was definitely, like, Snow, Lightning, and, I almost said Vanille, Sarah, who decided to build a new Bodham. So he was very much in charge of doing that. Yeah, like, fighting the monsters, making it... This is book club. This is book club, Duck. So, I guess, yeah. But I do want participation if you are able to. Instead of just me talking. Yeah, so he's very much concentrated on setting up New Bodham at the beginning of the book. But, like, eventually, I remember the thing about Sarah. Okay, just remembered. She does end up going through a lot of depression because of her sister going missing, her being the only one who has memories of her sister being there after the fall, and no one believing her. Yeah, so eventually, like, she does talk to Snow and does tell him everything and gets him to start questioning things, and he decides to venture out into Grand Pulse trying to find Lightning. And on the way, he befriends this Cactuar, which we will talk more about later. He also got Rigdia to help them create New Bodham. And yeah, very much like I did come to respect Snow more while reading this book, because I'm like, yeah, well, he is, you know, very much like a jock kind of dude. He is very good at motivating people because he has such a big heart. Like, he just genuinely wants the world to be a better place for everyone. So people naturally follow him because he has that. Like, I think it's just kind of like he sees the world like through the eyes of a child. Yeah. So it's just like even the quote-unquote dumb characters have a lot of like depth and value to them, and that's something I definitely appreciate about FF13. You haven't read a book in ages. You started through reading last night. Oh, you're reading The Help? That's awesome. Yeah, definitely, like, when you have time, watch the beginning of this stream, because I do talk about, you know, reading accessibility, and I do talk about strategies for reading. I like how you can see what Sarah loves about him. Yes, absolutely. When did he say that he was gonna stop thinking? Now that's hilarious. He's very like a good sport character and tries to comfort the party. Yes, yes. He is very good at winning people over. So like that's like important. It's just like all the characters have value. They all have something to contribute, and things wouldn't be like the same if it wasn't for these characters. Okay, so there's also Nora. The group used to be vigilantes, but now have settled in New Bodham. 4 core members: Godot, Yuge, Maki, and Lebro. Lebro is my wife. She's important. I guess to break these characters down, I should read it again. Godot, the excitable pretty boy. Interesting. Yuge, the mechanical expert. Maki... Oh, no. I read that wrong. Yeah, Queen Lebro. The self-styled badass and strongest man of Nora, Godot. Yeah, so he's like the muscle. Godot's the muscle. The pretty boy is Yuge. Oh, the blue-haired guy. Yeah. Maki is the mechanical expert. And then Lebro is the chef. Yeah. So they're, you know, they lead everything with setting up New Bodham. Yuge is your favorite? Yeah, I don't know enough about them, but it's probably Lebro because she's my wife. Oh yes, the Cactuar that Snow befriends. When Snow finds this Cactuar, it accompanies him. It was like separated from a Cactuar herd, but it was actually an outsider, and that's because of a spoiler, which we will talk about when we talk about the chapter specifically. But it has a secret. But like Snow's just like, oh, why not? Why not have this monster with me? I'm just gonna befriend this monster. Okay. We can talk about Hope now. Yours is Lebro. Oh, right. She joined the party in 13 and has basically a gun that has a grenade launcher. That's so cool. She's also my wife. Oh, that was when Snow was like trying to turn my brain off. Okay, I want to see. Page 6. Oh yeah, which meant he should stop thinking about it, he figured. Yeah. Yeah, we love Snow. Definitely like opposite of this Snow, who thinks too much and is definitely not muscle. Well, no, when I was in pole shape, I was ripped. I was just like thin ripped. Anyway. Okay, I think... Yeah, he's all heart, not all brains. Yes. Yes. Which you do need. You do need. And I guess like I'd want to talk about this later. That's why there's like having multiple leaders can be a good thing. Yeah, I mean, it's like Snow is a good like face to be like the leader, and he's, you know, charismatic, he's very motivating. But it's why it's good to have a brains in the operation. Yeah, he was definitely real for that. There was a lot going on right after everything happened. All right, I think we can talk about Hope now. So he ends up living with his father, Bartholomew, in Pelopolum. He believes in staying in Cocoon and working hard as a way to make amends and to restore it. Later, his dad, as a condition to be part of the provisional government, which we'll talk about later, decides to create an academy a research academy with an institute of higher education attached to it. And that was all for Hope. And also thinking about other kids who need to learn the truth instead of propaganda that Sanctum fed children before. So he goes to the academy to research saving the 3 that are in the pillar, technically 2, and build a society without the Falsi. And it makes sense why, like, when we meet him and he's 10 years older, in I don't remember what it's called. That he's at that academy. Yeah, another thing like about Hope is like his experience with being a Lassie definitely changed him and made him grow up way too fast. And that was a concern that a lot of the adults in the book brought up, and it was definitely like something that motivated Bartholomew a lot. So yeah. But yeah, it's just things that Hope said to his father was a big motivator. And it is a theme in this book that is like, it's so important to teach children the truth and to teach children how to look for truth. Yeah, I think I need more lotion soon. Definitely made me respect Hope more. I don't know if there's anything you guys want to add to that. God, I have to say though, this soundtrack slaps. Yeah, he's a good boy. Why are you barely learning this lore now? You grew up playing 13 so much, you barely learned this lore. You need to read some more books. That is one of my big goals with doing book club. And that's why I love it that like you guys that are participating haven't read the book. Because I'm like, this is to encourage people to read. And it's part of the reason why I made all those video essays on Traces of Two Paths. Because if this means that people are going to go and read books, and because it does so many good things for you, then my work here is done. And I think it is great that there are these Final Fantasy books, because then it's like gamers that don't normally read feel more motivated to read, because it's something that's already an interest, a pre-established interest to them. You almost left their book club completely. Well, I'm glad you're here now. We're not that far. We're still talking about characters. Oh, that's a good question. Out of the whole book, what characters have you understood more / shifted opinion on the most? Probably Sarah, because I knew close to nothing about her. And then the whole teaching angle and her motivations behind that, I deeply relate to. My favorite character to learn about, though, because he's a badass, is Rigdia. Okay, so we'll move on to Bartholomew then, which there is a chapter that's from his point of view. A reminder, that's Hope's dad. Sarah too on your reread? Yeah, she was funny. So he once had deep ties to the Sanctum. Excellent researcher, has connections. Important figure to the provincial government. Hope inspires him to restore schools and establish the academy. Yeah. So the thing about him, he's a very humble guy. Most of what he cares about is making a better future for his son Hope. He does have guilt about not being there when his wife and son were purged, and certainly like not being there when she died. He holds guilt for that. He holds guilt in general for not being around too much when Hope was growing up, because he had his work. So he is a lot of what he does is to make up for that. Also, a thing about him is, even though he has those connections and he is a researcher, his hands are clean. He does not do any dirty work, no dirty deeds. You can't find any dirt on him, and that is why Rigdia chose him to be part of the new provincial government. Bartanilus? Yeah, no, Bartholomew. They should have made different names. Because it's like I am so bad with names, so it's confusing for me. I think knowing more about Snow and Hope helps you out when you encounter them in the games. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. But yeah, so like, I'm just gonna call him Bart. Yeah, Bart is like, I think we all would like to have leaders that are squeaky clean, that have a clean record. Certainly will never happen in America. He's a great father figure. He really does try to be the best he can to protect Hope, and cares for him, and even risked his own life helping the party, taking them in his home. Yes, absolutely. Yes, Hope's dad. Yeah. So yeah, like, you know, I guess like a theme is like about leadership. Yeah, there needs to be someone who is the motivator. There needs to be someone who's the brains. There needs to be someone who's clean. Started calling Barthy Betty. I love that. Okay, let's talk about Rigdia. So he was an officer of the former Wide Area Response Brigade, or the Cavalry. He was Sid's right-hand man. He actually didn't really have ambitions. And it was Sid who encouraged him. So, yeah. After the fall, he joined the Guardian Corps for evacuation. So he was very much the brains behind all of that. Because of this, he became a member of the government and is influential. So yeah, he creates the provincial government. He is not afraid to get his hands dirty. He is not afraid of being painted as the villain. He knows he's gonna be the fall guy. Oh, Caius's theme. Ooh. Yeah, so he's not afraid to get his hands dirty. He's not afraid of being painted as the villain. He's very logical. He's very good at separating emotion from what he does, and that's what makes him a great leader. He feels like he's not very political. Yeah, but he's definitely the brains. Definitely the brains of the operation, and it is incredibly badass, and I'm excited to talk about it. Yeah. Super, super cool guy. I can see where Hope gets it from. Yeah, at least you'll be alive to hate me kind of guy. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he's very smart. He thinks things through, he thinks ahead, he thinks every possibility. And because of that, he will take his time with certain things. Oh, I can't wait to talk about it. It's awesome. Oh, it's so awesome. Okay. Yagorosh. Do we remember him, silver-haired guy? So he was the commissioned officer of SciComm and died the year of the fall. We remember his death. The important thing is about him is before he died, they have like these ID cards or chips or whatever that records everything. Rigdia got a hold of his recordings, which documented SciComm pursuing the party in 13. Oh, I'm so excited. I am so excited to talk about it. He was cute. He was definitely cute. I think he low-key wanted to help expose everyone. I think he last minute flipped. I think he last minute switched sides. That's just what I think. A welfare hottie of Sephiroth. Accurate. Actually accurate. Yeah, Fang and Vanille, they became the pillar to save Cocoon. We get to like read their thoughts at the beginning of the book in that very first chapter. They both deal with a lot of guilt. Mostly with being the reason why Sarah and Dodge became Lissy. And like their part in everything. But most of it, most of their perspective was like they just wanted everyone to be able to have like a happy life. And they're thinking like, don't worry about trying to save us. Worry about you guys. Obviously, we know the party, and they're not just gonna let them stay in the pillar. They want to figure it out. It's just there is the issue that if you remove the pillar, Cocoon falls and destroys everything. So they have to figure out how to revive them and still have a way to keep Cocoon up. So I guess that's something I should have talked about earlier, now that I'm thinking about it. Oh yeah, Kuja is the hot cousin. Yes, yes. Okay, Saz and Dodge. Yeah, so with him, he's like, I am not leaving my kid out of my sight because the last time that happened, he became a Lissy. So that's why Dodge stays with him while he's piloting airships. And just stays in the cockpit with him until, you know, things can be established again where he can put Dodge in a daycare, but, you know, things are unstable. So, like, there's not a lot about Saz in the book. You're fine. You're fine, Dream. Fang and Vanille being in love has never not been canon, even the books acknowledge it. Yes. 100%. Yeah, lesbians. It's the whole kill your gays. But they saved the world. Yeah. Okay, last one, Noel. Hunter from another time who survived a difficult environment, bright, optimistic, and curious, but never reckless. After his people died, he started looking for survivors. That's gonna we'll talk about with the last chapter. So he's very much a never give up kind of person, and he was tested. He was definitely tested on that. Okay, I'm going to take a pee break because I drank a lot of tea. So feel free to discuss any of the characters amongst yourselves, and I will come take a look when I come back. Yeah. The love of your loaf. You know these glasses are growing on me. Okay. Come on, let me scroll. Yeah, Fang said don't you dare try to save us, yeah. Finally together, holding hands, lighting to bad diva, yep. Yeah, this is a goated OST. Noel was a character that I really liked for the first half of the game, then he felt kind of stagnant for me. His backstory is good, but he feels incomplete to me. There could be more. I guess I'll form my opinion once I get there. The Quistis glasses, yes. I was looking on eBay for like another pair, so I'm probably gonna be wearing another pair. Oh, now FF7 Remake is playing. We'll change that. It's probably not playing on OBS though, because I'd have to switch the videos. Hold on a second. Oh, okay, I guess Final Fantasy XIII Trilogy soundtrack sweet ambiance. I could try that. I mean, I have changed my Discord picture to Quistis. I'm just... There we go. Okay, I think we can move on to talking about the chapters. Okay, so I already talked a lot about the first one. It's called Imaginary and Real. So just looking at that title, You had mixed feelings on Noel because of Lightning Returns. Oh. Alright. Yeah, no spoilers for that. If Earth's theme in Rebirth plays from when she does her prayer to the planet, you'll listen while crying incessantly. That's fair. The visuals from the video is distracting me. Okay, I'm just gonna look at my thumbnail then, I guess. They released some FF9 glasses. I'm gonna take a look. I mean, they need to be, like, fake, because I don't need glasses. I'm just doing it for the aesthetic. But apparently these are blue light glasses, so I'm like, oh, maybe I'd want to get some blue light glasses for when I stream. That way I'm not straining my eyes. They also sold Jill's glasses. Wow. Okay, I can't really... I don't see anything that's special about the glasses themselves. They're expensive. It has Vivi's eyes. Oh. On the, like, the frames? Oh, I see, I see. Okay. So, imaginary and real. Like, if, like, we understand the story, like, that's all about Sarah's other memories. And then it, like, flips the narrative at the very end, which lightning disappears. Oh, okay, on the frames. Oh, Square sometimes releases perfume based on the characters. I love that. I would want to wear Sephiroth's perfume. Okay. So, like I said before, is everyone's point of view after the fall. Vanille's a crystal watching over everyone. She understands Sarah as an awakened crystal. She feels guilt. Snow at first could only think of Sarah and being reunited with her. Then he remembered Fang and Vanille and apologized to them. Since they were friends he hadn't saved. Him and Sarah talk about building a new home on Grand Pulse. We already talked about that. He decides that they have to do that before they can save Fang and Vanille, which is very reasonable. Cloud had one when Advent Children came out. Oof. Yeah, anyway, like, that makes sense that they had to establish things for people before they could go off and, like, look. Like, it's like Fang and Vanille aren't going anywhere. Hope looks for his father and was told by the cavalry that he's safe, but evacuation is the priority. In fact, two-thirds were successfully evacuated, which made everyone worried. But the greatest damage was luckily in Bodham, which had already been purged, so not a lot of people died. They're told to go into hiding because they were Lassie, and the populace didn't know the truth yet. So they thought that the fall was because of them, which technically it was, but, you know, it could have been a genocide if Bartandalis won. Yeah, so they would be blamed until the truth came out, so they had to go into hiding. Oh yeah, it'd be nice to have a little home for Fang and Vanille to come back to. That's an excellent point. A very good point. So that's when Saz decides to help the evacuation by piloting an airship. That way he can help without being seen. Which is quite smart. He gets permission to take Dodge with him since he doesn't want him out of his sight after the whole thing with him becoming a Lissy. Fang grapples with forgiving herself for Dodge, a child, becoming a Lassie, even though Saz forgave her. Is she struggling with forgiving herself? She's also glad to be in the crystal sleep with Vanille this time instead of alone. I thought that was sweet. She wants everyone to worry about themselves instead of trying to save them, but she knows that they're gonna do it anyway, so she's like, okay. Lightning wants to save them, but she knows that they have to figure out how to keep Cocoon from falling without the crystal pillar. That whole thing is a real issue, and we will see why when we talk about Noel. She wants to look for technology on Grand Pulse, and she, like I talked about at the beginning, she realizes that Snow took her place to protect Sarah, so she can leave him to do that. She feels like she can leave Sarah to go look for a new technology to figure out how to keep Cocoon from falling. Obviously she disappeared, so that's the mystery there. She reflects on how her feelings changed from wanting Sarah back to wanting to protect the future for everyone, which we talked about before. We go back to Sarah. Yes, the fact that Snow and Lightning had the same thoughts show how similar they truly are. Yes. Yes, they're like two sides of the same coin, is definitely how I describe it. It's like Lightning is not as charismatic and motivating as Snow, but she is the brains. She's definitely the brains. Like, definitely very strategic and smart. But they ultimately have the same motivations. And they're on the same page. Just different approaches. It's fair for Fang and feel very, very guilty to know that you were the cause of having a young child have such a fate. Yes. Yeah, she did not mean for it to happen. You had a dream about Noel. What? He rings her bell on how he rocks in stripes, thigh-high socks. He doesn't know who I am and he doesn't. Is this a song? Okay. Back to Sarah. She reflects on how in her crystal sleep she saw the journey because Snow kept the tear-shaped crystal. I thought that was sweet. So she was there with them. Saz leaves to be a pilot and Hope's father is about to arrive. So it ends up being just Sarah, Lightning, and Snow. Then that's when Sarah says out loud that she wants to be a teacher so that the children knows what really happened and learns to question things. Then she turns towards Lightning and sees that she's gone. And she can feel that something is very wrong. Yeah, and in fact, Lightning, before, like, she just disappeared, had given Snow and Sarah her blessing. But, like, now Snow doesn't remember that at all, because it was in a different set of memories. Yeah, and then she ended up at a sea and felt something off with her senses and perception of time. That was interesting. But then, like, now that I've read the whole book, I'm like, I think I know what's going on there. But I'll talk about that later. Yeah, so very, very interesting first chapter. It's like, at first you're just like, oh, this is just catching up with everyone in the party and what they're doing right after the end of the first game. And then it's like, nope, actually, a lot of those memories just existed in Sarah's head. And the memories are slightly different for everyone else. Lightning's not there. And it's like, you know, this seems like this is going to be a conflict that is going to be resolved in the game. So it's not resolved in this book. And oh my god, I just had deja vu. That was weird. Okay. That feeling that Sarah has may come up again. Okay. That makes sense. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. Okay. I think we can move on to the next chapter, which is called Teacher and Children. So again, we gleaned from that title, and what we already know about Sarah, that this is about how Sarah becomes a teacher. Huh. I wonder if it's ever made clear if Lightning remembers. I guess we'll find out. Okay, so in Teacher and Children, New Bodham has been established near the sea on Grand Pulse. LeBreau's cooking abilities and Snow's experience on Grand Pulse enables them to eat, so it was very difficult trying to figure that out because of all the monsters. So it's like we already seen that life after the fall of Cocoon was a struggle. Oh yeah, timey-wimey shenanigans mess with my head, but they are interesting. Yeah, I love time travel. I really like how so far what I've heard about the book explains more clearly for the audience. Yes. Oh, she does. She also knows a lot. I'm excited. Alright, no spoilers though. I haven't gotten that far in 13-2. Life was difficult with the monsters around and no access to the machines and the conveniences they had before. Palampollen became the new capital in Cocoon. We already talked about that. All of Cocoon was dark. Their sun, Falsey Phoenix, only emitted faint light. So, that's foreshadowing. Oh, this is Promise? Such a good song. Oh, you're not spoiling oh, you promise. Okay. Okay. I gotcha. Some people went to Pulse and some stayed. In New Bodham, they discovered that people lived there not too long ago. This is where we start to see the strange things that only Sarah questions, and everyone else is just like, oh, okay, and just goes with it. The Falsey just makes you think of attitudes about AI. See, I'm telling you, this book is very applicable to actual real issues we're dealing with. Yeah, so people lived there not too long ago when the Falsey had said that people had been wiped out on Pulse centuries ago. And this news only shocked Sarah. She was the only one that's like, this is weird. Everyone else is just like, oh, okay. And just went with it and didn't question it. Uses the Promise theme in the song with the vocal inflections. Gotcha. Okay, we talked about the cavalry providing aid with developing New Bodham. Sarah had been having nightmares. And would wake up crying for her sister, so LeBreau would come to her to comfort her. So like LeBreau becomes more important in this chapter because she does take on the role of older sister in Lightning's place. Yeah, she grapples with this like disconcerting feeling that she has about Lightning's disappearance and how she's the only one who saw her after the fall. This song has ruined Hometown. Oh, and it plays an Airba. Yes, I remember. It's a good song. Hope had found the knife that she gave Lightning as a gift under the pillar, which was strange. They think her memories was just her time as a crystal, but that didn't feel right because she remembers going on the journey with Snow when she was a crystal. She remembers her crystal memories and she can tell the difference. She feels guilt for her part in the fall because of becoming a Lassie and basically jump starting everything that happened in the previous game. So because of all this, she's dealing with very crushing anxiety and depression. I don't know why OBS is freezing me. This is a great song. Okay. So one day she's like out by the sea. You're seeing and hearing me fine? Okay, good. Good. So a little girl sees that she's sad, and she gives her a shell. And that reminded her of her other memories. So the whole thing about her wanting to be a teacher, that was in her other memories. So, like, according to Snow, she never talked about it. So she's reminded of where she said she'd like to be a teacher. She had talked herself out of it. Shushu! Hi! Hold on. Hey, are you gonna be a little boy? You can come be with mommy. You can come be with mommy. Shushu, say hi! Okay, don't lick me to death though. Don't lick me to death. Because mommy's doing book club. Yeah. Okay, can you sit properly? Can you sit properly? Okay. Alright, continue. Yeah, so she had talked herself out of it, but then she could see now that there's actually a need for her to be a teacher. Because they had spent so much time not having an education. Then the children sense monsters, so that's when she steps up to protect them. And even uses magic. So it had been recently discovered that normal humans could suddenly use magic. And no one questioned that being odd except her. They're just like, oh yeah, of course we can use magic now, even though before only Lassie could. And she's like, you guys don't find that to be odd? Yeah, so because she found that to be odd, she normally didn't use it. So since she didn't use it often, she was pretty weak at it. So then LeBro ends up showing up with the others. So Sarah takes the kids with her to Maki's workshop until it was safe. And during this journey, like, she's very, very naturally good with the kids. Like, she's just like, okay, older kids, hold the younger kids' hands. We're gonna play a game, you know, kind of thing. Like, she's already has natural teaching abilities of how to deal with children. This is why I had you go to my roommate. Oh, my voice is already getting hoarse. Okay, so she has them play a game while she's keeping watch outside of the workshop. And Maki had recently developed this frequency sound generator to keep 80% of monsters away. But it doesn't repel 20% of them. And then that's when LeBro radios her and she tells LeBro her location. So that they can find them. And so then during this time, she thinks more about the kids and how they really need school. And then that's when a flying monster comes and she's useless against it. But because she used that frequency generator, that alerted Maki and Snow to her location, so they were able to help her. So she tells Snow that she wants to start a school. And he just, he enthusiastically agrees, just like he did in her other memories. Very predictable Snow. Um, and they talk about using the space outside the workshop until they can build a school, which I think Godot builds the school. In the data logs, it does explain that humans that were Lissi, a few of them were able to keep their powers. Yes, but normal human beings who never were Lissi could suddenly use magic. So it was actually odd. Yes, Godot does build the pavilion to hold school. So she teaches for 6 months, and during that time, her depression eases. But teaching kids is challenging, and she ran into some challenges. It is the age-long question of why are we here? Why do we have to learn this? Like, what use is it? So she gives the homework that both her and the kids think about why school is important, why they need to learn what they need to learn. Yeah, so that's definitely why this book is good, Duck. So she reflects about how Lightning told her that studying was mental training to think for herself. She questions Lightning in her mind if she can become a real teacher. Then she hears Lightning respond in her mind, "You can do it." And she knows that that was really Lightning. And because she had been thinking about Lightning, she has her first nightmare in a while that night. And she knows that she won't be able to go back to sleep. That's my problem. Yeah, kids are very challenging. That's why I don't teach anymore. Because I was sick of dealing with behavior issues instead of actually teaching. Yeah, so because she couldn't sleep, she decided to go out for a run to counter her insomnia. She runs into a student who's crying over the loss of her mother that happened 2 years before. And she comforts her, saying it's okay to still be grieving. And that she doesn't have to bottle it up and to be strong. But does tell her not to go outside alone at night again. And so the child asks if she can go to her when she's sad, and Sarah's like, of course. And of course, this conversation is very much spurred on her grief over Lightning. So she does feel a connection to this student because of that. And so she turns around, realizes Snow was there and listened. So that's when she tells him about how she heard Lightning in her mind. And he asked her to tell him about her other memories. Up until this point, he had never asked her because he felt like she wasn't ready to talk about it, and he was just waiting for her, which was really sweet. And after she tells him everything, she feels relief. And it was actually during this conversation that she came up with the answer for her class of why they need school. So the next day, she tells them about how important it is to critically think and not have anyone do it for you. Like the Sanctum did. Which had eliminated doubts and made people blindly follow them and not question anything. It was important that they question more and work through those hard questions themselves, learn how to do that. This is why she wanted to be a teacher in the first place. Plus, they didn't know what the future would hold, so they'd have to learn how to take care of themselves. The boy still wasn't convinced, but Sarah knew that she had to be patient. So this is actually something I'm very big on. So when I was getting my teaching degree, I learned that it's not important, like it's important to teach kids, teach students how to think for themselves, how to critically think, ask the right questions, and work out the answers. Learn how to critically work out the answers instead of telling them what to think. If you're teaching kids what to think, you are doing it wrong. Because ultimately you want to set students up for success in the real world, because the real world has a lot of challenges, and especially because we don't know the future. So it's important for students to learn how to critically think and how to critically work through their problems. Instead of having the exact solution and being told what to think. You low-key would have screamed Snow being 6, 7, and seeing him just spawn in the middle of the night. He would have pissed your pants. You used to be all in on Noel and Sarah, and you still like them, but Snow and Sarah are really cute and wholesome, yeah. But yes. So it's like I really related to this a lot because also my experience in Mormonism. We were taught not to question what we were being fed. The information, the doctrine that we were being fed. And so I just readily just accepted everything, even with the crazy shit. I was just like, okay. I didn't learn to go, no, that's odd. No, that's very weird. That's very, like, incorrect, and that's very predatory. No, I just went with whatever information I was being fed because I was being indoctrinated. But then when I grew up and learned to critically think and to question everything, that's when everything changed. So I feel like that's something that definitely happened with these characters, and something that Sarah had an epiphany on, that she's like, no, there's a lot of weird shit going on, and I need to draw attention to it. And I need to teach the rising generation to do the same thing. And it's because of this conversation she had with Snow and pointing all the weird shit out that Snow's like, okay, I'm gonna go look for lightning. Alright, I'm gonna make more tea because I'm starting to feel the effects of talking too much. Now that we know about the first 2 chapters, feel free to comment amongst yourselves and to discuss, and I will come back and read it. I definitely feel like I'm back in teacher mode. Streamer. You can be the streamer while mommy makes more tea.
discussion?
I decided to eat while I was at it.
Just put you right here for a second. You just really run with it. You just want to be on mommy's bed? If this is mommy turns her back, you're gonna fall and you're gonna hurt yourself. Roba! Roba! 알았어. Mommy will get you.
Okay, let's see what you guys talked about.
Sure, you Shakespeare. Are you Shakespeare? Yeah. Okay, sit properly.
Okay. Oh, what did I come to? What is this song? Okay. So, King, you're really proud of Sarah and being strong and protect the kids when the monsters attack. Yes. That instinct kicked in. The teacher instinct. Sarah and Snow are a lot like each other, which is why I think they're such a cute couple. Because they care for others more than themselves and are always willing to help others when they need it. Yes. My god, Shushu. Just looked up if you share a birthday with that FF character in Google AI for real, it just said Audi R8 from Final Fantasy 15. Don't use Google AI. I hate that they make you use it. That's like if you don't remember to put -AI, it will automatically like AI generate an answer without like your permission. It's just shoehorning. Anyway, we're not gonna rant about AI right now. Shushu has so many good points about the Sanctum, how they have a lot of organized religion, cult, and fascist aspects. Yes. Yes. Given the whole purpose of Cocoon was to cause such a mass loss of life as to call back the Maker. Yes. Bingo. Bingo, nailed it. Your birthday is close to Aerith's and Ignis. I wonder. Okay. Also, if you guys are able to use Akosha, that's a good browser. You can turn off the AI overviews, and they plant trees. It's a green browser. Final Fantasy characters born in August. Okay. Dr. Tot? August 11th or August 19th in some sources. Is Cloud. Cloud's a Leo. Though I'm a Virgo. Squall and I have the same birthday! And Wygraph Folis? Sabin? Sabin's on the 16th. I love Sabin. Oh, and Edgar, of course. 17th is Jack, 26th. Yeah, okay, a lot of people I don't know. Oh, Noctis is on the 30th. But since Squall and I have the same birthday, that's awesome. Okay. Okay, I think we can talk about Chapter 3. Okay, Shusho, I need to drink tea. Oh, it's still a little hot. Okay. So it's called Friend and Foe. Very relevant to the themes we're gonna talk about with this chapter. Okay, so this chapter is about Snow's journey when he decides to look for lightning. He actually ended up in Arc-like Steppe. He found a cactuar that was away from a herd of them, and at first he was trying to get it back to the herd, especially because he didn't have any leads. He didn't have any information to go off of to find lightning. And that's when he saw that the cactuar was friendly and could understand him. And it actually stayed with him. One night they stayed by a campfire and Snow told the cactuar his story, especially how he didn't question the strange things happening until Sarah pointed them out to him. He thinks Lightning figured out what happened and that's why she disappeared, so he feels like he really needs to find her and then after that come up with a plan of what to do. About saving Fang and Vanille from being the pillar and also preventing Cocoon from falling. So during his travels, he did run into Saz and told him what Sarah said. And Saz didn't question things either until it was pointed out. He was busy piloting and having Dodge there, but he said that he would ask around, even though they're just passengers and he didn't know what kind of information he could get from them. And it had actually been 2 years since the fall. So when he ran into Hope, he saw that Hope grew up very fast. Yeah, in the new capital. The new government had to publicize the truth. I wrote the first thing, and then actually that's inaccurate. It was like 6 months. It took 6 months for that to happen. So the party was heralded as heroes, especially Fang, Vanille, and Lightning. Again, he pointed out the strangeness to Hope, and Hope beats himself up for not figuring out that Lightning leaving the knife under the pillar was strange. Because, like, she always carried that with her. So if she became a part of the pillar, the knife would have been with her. She wouldn't have let go of it. So he's like, I should have figured that out. Yeah, back to his current journey, a flying monster showed up and the cactuar saved him. Then he recalled a conversation he had with Rigdia, which happened after he visited Hope. Rigdia had said, assumptions can be truly frightening things. We'll talk about that a lot. Oh, he mirrors his two characters, one from Final Fantasy Tactics, another is Cater from Final Fantasy Type 0. That's cool. Shoot. Okay. He told Rigdia about the strange things. He offers military aid, but Snow thinks that there's not enough information to go on to have that kind of response. And during this time, Rigdia asks him to look for Psycom, who fled. You know, because they were responsible for a lot of things that happened. But his goal to finding Psycom was not to start war. It was for a peaceful resolution. Yeah. That's the thing that I respect about Rigdia. Is he knows when to get his hands dirty and he knows when not to. Suddenly Snow and the cactuar got into a trap. And like the people that came for the trap were what was left of Psycom. And they were using the traps for monsters, and they didn't expect a person. There's a Tom Barrett glasses case. Interesting. Yeah, they didn't expect to see people there. And he found out that they never wanted to shoot people again. They had made a village on the steppe with their families, and they dealt with a lot of shit because of what happened. Perfect librarian glasses. Yeah, and they told their perspective that as Psycom, all they learned was they had to do whatever it took to protect Cocoon. Even if that meant giving their lives. they were taught not to question either. So it's like the SciComm operatives didn't know the truth either. They just were told to follow orders to protect Cocoon and to not question anything. So they were victims too. In a way. They felt purposeless after the fall because they no longer could do what they were trained to do. So life on Pulse was good for them because fighting monsters meant that they could protect again. So Rigdia's assumptions comment made more sense to him then. That it's like assuming that SciComm is just all evil, that they're all evil, was false. And that's why it's important to understand other perspectives and other points of view. And that way you can educate people on where their, you know, logic is wrong, or where their ethics are wrong, and give them a chance to turn that around. Then suddenly their village was under attack by 5 behemoth kings, so Snow decides to help. Yeah, guns weren't enough, and neither was his magic, especially without Shiva and him not being a Lassie anymore. So he asked the Cactuar to help, and then he asked everyone to get down. The Cactuar began to attack. When it wasn't enough, a pulse crest showed up, which meant that there's a pulse fal'Cie. Then the earth cracked and swallowed the behemoth kings. Crystal particles showed up too and changed the land. It changed the land. Created cliffs. That was when Snow figured out that the Cactuar was a pulse fal'Cie. Oh, that line hit me like a brick. They found out they never wanted to shoot people again. Yes. Yes. They learned the error of their ways. He realizes that the Cactuar lost its power. Which I did put down the explanations, the last 2 paragraphs of page 95, so I'm gonna read those. The fal'Cie of Grand Pulse seemed to have taken the dormancy of the Cocoon fal'Cie as a sign and stopped attacking humans too. The change had been so dramatic, Fang's stories about how they'd enslaved every human they saw seemed like fairy tales. The Pulse fal'Cie had probably sensed the disappearance of antagonistic forces. If their enemies were gone, then they didn't need to make pawns to fight, so their interest in humans must have faded. So there you go. When Cocoon fal'Cie left or became dormant and stopped attacking humans, the Pulse fal'Cie saw that they no longer had to fight Cocoon fal'Cie, so they no longer felt the need to turn humans into Lassie. And so I think like the power dwindled because of that. And he figured out that the Cactuar actually wants to make him a Lassie, but can't for some reason. Yes. Yes, the Cactuar was a Pulse fal'Cie. In the aftermath of the attack, the village wanted to make sculptures of the Cactuar because it saved them. They even offered to let it stay if it needed a place to stay. Okay, 3rd paragraph on page 98. So Snow is thinking, I don't know about that, Snow thought. The idea that monsters were enemies that would never help humans out was just an assumption that humans had made. Maybe in the future, monsters would save other villages. Hell, maybe they'd even fight alongside humans. So Snow offers to let the Cactuar join him on his journey, and that he would help it get its powers back. Then it can help him turn Lassie back from Crystal. So there is a solution to the problem of how to figure out how to save Fang and Vanille. They just need to figure out how to hold up Cocoon. Yeah. So he felt like meeting the Cactuar was fate. Abandoning his assumptions gave him options. So he believed that its power was to help it get human allies. So, you know, very, very important chapter that's like, it's very, very applicable, and we'll talk more about this in themes. But like, for example, with racism, it's basically programmed into white people DNA to make assumptions about someone of color and to treat them according to said assumptions instead of seeing where they, you know, are humans, real human beings. So, you know, Snow realizes here, PSICOM is not the evil enemy. They just, you know, were also a victim of Sanctum and the Cocoon Falsy. And then the same thing with monsters. That is, if you learn to bridge that gap and learn to understand the other perspectives and not make these assumptions based off of things like, oh, monsters, PSICOM, people of color, queer people. Anyway, the thing I always loved about FF13's setting was that you don't know the planet this game takes place on is Grand Pulse all along. Yes. Yes, that's a good point. Okay. Oh, I'm so excited about this next chapter. Oh, I'm so excited. It was awesome. Okay, it's called Fair and Foul. Okay. So, in this chapter, this was 6 months after the fall of Cocoon. Rigdia invited Bartholomew, our good old Bart, to have a meeting with him before he was gonna have an assembly with Sanctum. Like the old privileged leaders, the upper class that they'd ruled things before, right? This meeting was in a concert hall. And yeah, Rigdia met with good old Bart in his security room, which was actually in the room in the basement where the instruments are stored. There he shared with Bart the ID card recordings from YAG that I brought up earlier, which documented their pursuit of the party in the first game. YAG actually admits from the very beginning that the goal of the Purge was actually the Sanctum's plan to massacre them to a man. So massacre everybody in Bodom. Like he plainly states that in the recording. So yeah, inadmissible evidence. Yeah, and then Rigdia talked about before Sid's death, he transferred to him records and documents implicating Sanctum. And it was legally obtained because Sid was set up as the scapegoat after Bartandalus revived him. Okay. So it took Rigdia 6 months to compile all this evidence to dismantle Sanctum. So he was going to have this assembly with Sanctum to bring out this evidence to kick them out. To kick them out of the government. And he thought of every possibility, including how they would try to worm out of it. He thought of everything. So why he invited Bart to talk to him was first to apologize for not immediately releasing this information to exonerate Hope. But he also asked him there to be a part of the new provisional government until they don't need one anymore. So the plan was never to replace Sanctum with themselves. It was to have that, like, and like an intermission period of them being in there until they can, you know, get things under control. And then they were gonna have a different system. So he wanted Bart because his hands were clean, like I talked about earlier. There was no dirt on him. And Rigdia was okay with being the one who does all the dirty work and being painted as the villain. Bart didn't want him to turn the 6 former lessee into heroes because then they would be used as pawns. So Rigdia compromised by saying the ones holding the pillar will be lauded as heroes since they're already, like, not, like, walking around. They're frozen in crystals, so it's okay. But he won't give the names of the other 3. A concert, yeah. There's a specific reason why it's in a concert hall. I'll get to it in a minute. Yeah, so like Bart requested this because he wanted to protect Hope, because Hope is still a child. Like, he knew like Snow and Saz probably could handle it since they're adults, but Hope is still a child. Yeah, we love a good concert hall, I agree. He had other conditions about joining the government, which Rigdia was already willing to give him those conditions. So he first wanted a public research organization and a center of higher education attached to it. To publicize the truth and encourage critical thinking and eliminate information manipulation. So before, like, these institutions were private, so that this information was not readily available. He wanted to eliminate that and wanted it to be accessible. This idea was inspired by Hope, who once commented, "It's scary not to know, isn't it?" And this comment was spurred on because they were studying together. And he was reading textbooks, and he felt like what he was reading in there were slimy and wrong because they were made during Old Sanctum. So it was all Old Sanctum information. It was not accurate truth. So Bart wanted students to learn updated information every day, and he felt like the best way to do that would be in kind of like a university setting. And he eventually wanted to make high schools like this. So Rigdia was fully on board. He wanted him to keep his hands clean, and they made a deal. And Rigdia left to expose Sanctum and had Bart stay and watch the broadcast on the screens in the security room. The security room was really cool, because the screens were on the wall, and I think it was like a biometric signature or something. So like only Rigdia could control it. So if Bart touched the wall, it would have shut off. It's pretty cool. So before he left, Bart made him promise not to use violence. Because he's like, shedding of blood leads to the shedding of more blood. Okay, so Rigdia, with this council, he had this happen at the concert hall because the concert hall was equipped to publicly broadcast this meeting to the entire country. Because before, Sanctum meetings were not publicly broadcast. So that was why it was in the concert hall. So he like went up to the pulpit and he played the recordings and showed the documents that he got from Sid in tandem. And of course, Sanctum had a big crash out and were protesting, and they're saying this is illegally obtained information. This is not, you know, viable. Set up and payoff, exactly. So he sidesteps this by showing it was legally obtained through Sid, who was set up as the scapegoat. Yeah, and their names, the names of the members of Sanctum were in the documents. In the documents saying that they had signed off on PSICOM sacrificing all the residents of Bodham and the Perch. Ironclad. Ironclad and badass. Yeah, security were there unarmed to arrest them, and they started to panic. He then revealed to them that this was being broadcast to the entire country. And so they were all arrested and restrained without spilling a drop of blood, like he promised Bart. This is what I wish happened with the Epstein files. This is what should have happened with the Epstein files. But you know, this is what happens when it's like actual people that are not corrupt, or like, you know, that want the actually have the best interests of the people at heart, and aren't corrupt like that. Like, this is what like you do. It was awesome. Yeah, Sanctum, it's fake news, it's AI actually, yep. So yeah, I freaked out. It was awesome. But there was like a lot of talk about leadership in that chapter, like about like, you know, Rigdia. He's like, I'm okay with being the fall guy. I'm okay with getting my hands dirty. I'm okay with being the villain. You need to keep your hands clean. Because people need to have a trustworthy, credible person in the provisional government. It's necessary. It's absolutely necessary. And then also the thing that Hope said, that it's scary not to know. But yeah, I think that Yag wanted this exposed. Because I'm just like, he said it in the recording. Yeah. Yeah, he kept his promise not to spill blood. Like, it's like Rigdia will keep his word. Yeah, and like Rigdia like was really good about separating logic from emotion. So it's like, you know that when he makes these decisions, like, he's thought it through. Yeah. But it took him 6 months, because if he knew that if he was hasty and released all the information without covering every angle, they would have warmed out of it. They would have warmed out of it and it would have been worse. So like, actually Bart was like, you don't need to apologize to me about waiting 6 months to release this in order for Hope to live a normal life, because it's more important that you expose these guys. Yeah, he's awesome. He's awesome. So I'm like, okay, next time I see Rigdia, I'm gonna be like, dude, I love you. Yeah, Yak saved him in the end. So I really do think he flipped sides at the very end, or at least along the way. Like, maybe like that's why he like explicitly said it very plainly, that he's like, no, they're attempting genocide. Like, we're carrying out orders of genocide, basically. Okay, so like, yeah, before I move on, like, that's why it makes sense to me that the chapter is called Fair and Foul. I think it's, you know, to show the contrast of like, fair, Bart keeps his hands clean. Foul, Rigdia. He is not afraid of being the one with his hands dirty. Also, Rigdia holds a lot of guilt for being the one who killed Sid. And he didn't know that Sid sent over all this information until it was too late. Yeah, and he talked a lot about how Sid inspired him and how he felt like Sid would have been the better leader. Okay. We're finally in the last chapter. You guys ready? It's called Someday and Somewhere. So this chapter follows Noel and his story. So he was raised by his grandma. And it starts off with her talking about how she never saw the ocean because seawater became poisonous and created mist of fine poison carried by the winds. So no one could live near the ocean. Yeah. In his time, death was very, very common. His mother died giving birth to him, which was very common. His dad died a little bit later. And his grandma living as long as she did was a miracle. Yeah, so he made her promise to live until he became a grown hunter. I think you can kind of guess. So like the world had actually lost its color when Cocoon disappeared from the sky. Under its weight, Cocoon and the pillar, so the pillar shattered, eventually shattered under the weight of holding up Cocoon. And as a result, Cocoon fell and destroyed the towns and most living things in that area. Some people barely escaped. Of course, there were toxic substances that were a byproduct of this event. The area around Cocoon was unlivable, and the survivors warred over the remaining inhabitable areas. They thought of no one but themselves, which of course created more problems. More people died, and the facilities were destroyed within the first century of Cocoon actually falling. Then his grandma's health was declining, and she was a teacher. And the classes she taught became less frequent because of her health issues. And fewer students were coming because so many people were dying. Yeah, animals were dying actually since his grandma was young. People got sick and died all the time because of dust from crystal particles entered their lungs. And of course, there were no doctors, hospitals, or medicine. Yeah. She taught, and the students said that the people back then were stupid. And she countered this by saying they didn't know the future, and if they did, then things would be different. Yeah, they were angry about living in this time and wished they could go back in time to change things. Then his grandma was on her deathbed, and he just couldn't accept it. And like he wasn't even a grown hunter yet, so she would have to break her promise. And then this is when she imparted the lesson: true death comes when everyone has forgotten you. As long as you live on in the memory of just one person, you will never die. So don't forget me or any of the others. And this like warmed my heart when I read this, because actually this is how I feel about my grandpa. This is how I came to terms with his death. Because I'm an atheist. So it's like I don't believe in an afterlife. There's no guarantee that there is an afterlife. And so that was hard to navigate, because I used to be Mormon and used to believe in an afterlife. So I didn't have that to comfort me. So, what ended up happening, how I dealt with my grandpa's death, was through writing a song about him and our memories. And I realized every time that I create art and that I create music, my grandpa is still alive. And he lives on through me. He lives on through me in my memories of him and how I choose to honor him. So that, you know, reading that, I'm like, that's exactly how I feel. But this is important to the story too. So he then witnessed everyone in his village die, including the littlest girl he swore to protect. She gets brought up a lot. So he left to search for other villages and people. And he remembered something that he heard. The goddess opens the door to those who never give up. And he had actually learned, like, as a hunter, that hope was essential and giving up meant endangering everyone else. When he was in school, they repeated names of cities and events from history in order to not forget, and so knowledge won't be lost. And like that's an offshoot of what his grandma said. And it's like the whole, you know, saying that if you don't learn history, you're doomed to repeat it. It's that whole thing. But they're like, just like, we're dying, so you know, we need to make sure that we remember all this history. Yeah, he wandered for a while and decided to climb these black mountains in hope of finding a village. He was hoping to find a rare fell seed to turn him into a l'Cie with the mission to save humanity from extinction. He wanted to even go back in time to change this fate, but he knew that that would take a miracle, which was the domain of the goddess Etro. And so he kept remembering the door. The goddess opens the door if you don't give up. I need to dip my tea back further into my tea. The trek up the mountain was difficult. On the other side, he found the ocean. His hopes fell, but then he remembered the goddess opens the door to those who never give up. Every time he was close to giving up, he remembered that. So he decided to go down to the ocean side in hopes of a miracle. And this was when he accepted the idea of death, until it occurred to him that the memory of his grandma, the littlest girl, and his village would die with him. So he refused to die. Until he could grant their wishes. And he ended up having the thought, I don't want it to end like this. No. And that was when his vision filled with light and he was enveloped with warmth, and that was when the goddess had opened the gate. He was being sent back in time, and he could already see people. And he knew that he wouldn't waste this chance from the goddess, so he left the warm power to take him. Yeah, so that's how he was able to go back in time and find Sarah and start this whole journey. And it's interesting because it's like, okay, they're already trying to find a way to figure out how to hold up Cocoon and save Fang and Vanille. And if they fail to do so, in the future, the weight of Cocoon is going to shatter Fang and Vanille in their pillar. And is basically going to slowly destroy humanity. So it's like they all have the same goal. They all have the same goal. Okay. Before I talk about themes, I'm gonna open it up to you guys again about what you think. Okay. It makes you think of Tillerson Jaff's 3 deaths philosophy. The first death is when you are buried. The second is when the last person who knew you dies. And the third is the last time someone says your name. Interesting. I agree. You know, and it's a comforting way to deal with death. That's like, okay, they live on in my memories. Like, it is sad. It's like, I'm never gonna see my grandpa ever again. And that, you know, always makes me sad. But he lives on in my memories. That's the plot of Coco. I've never seen Coco. But yeah, Noel's story was really inspiring to me. Because he was dealing with impossible circumstances, and I think anybody would be tempted to give up if you're like the last living person. But he refused to give up, and that made the difference. He keeps wax recording the people's voices for that reason. Oh, interesting. Because he'd be able to hear people long forgotten. Oh, I love that. Coco's so good. Okay, yeah, I'll watch it. I'll watch it. Okay, we're gonna talk about themes. So like, what I wrote down was question the information you've been given and don't accept things at face value. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And that's why I love Sarah. God, I'm talking a long time. Teaching critical thinking skills to the rising generations is important to build in a better future. Assumptions can be truly frightening things. This is a big one. We gotta be open-minded in order to achieve peace and work together with those who are different. Don't make assumptions about the character of somebody based off of looks and affiliation. You know, until you actually learn their perspective. Oh, you're fine, Dream. We're just talking about them now. Your grandma was actually very close friends with the artist. Oh, who works on Coco. So you, just because of that connection, you saw it a week early. That's really cool. Oh, I love that. Yeah, yeah, with my grandma's, my grandma Snow was very strange, so I never felt close to her. She died when I was in Guatemala, when I was 19, serving a mission, and that was really hard. I do have some special memories of her, but like I never felt a big connection to her. And then my other grandma, my mom kept us away from her because she was very emotionally and verbally abusive. Yeah, and she like lived in Florida, and like we lived in the West. So like I didn't see her much in my life, but she was pretty horrible to us. Now I think a little differently. Now I'm a little bit more understanding of her, and especially like hearing my uncle tell me more about her, so I'm not getting my mom's warped perspective, has made me see my grandma differently. But she also got dementia and passed away 4 years ago while I was in Korea. And like her death was difficult for me, but a very different reason than my grandpa's was. It was juggling, you know, where she was fucked up, and also juggling where she was misunderstood. I lived in Florida 2 years ago, and before I moved, I was able to go visit her grave and be able to make peace. So, and I like promised that I would try to learn to understand her more. So I never really had a strong grandmother figure until I lived in Korea. My last landlady, I called her Halmoni, which means grandma. She didn't speak much English, but she was just such a sweet lady, and then every time there was a holiday, she would invite me up to her apartment, and she would feed me. She'd feed me a lot of food. And, like, she would see me in, like, the hall, and she'd be like, Rebecca, ipuda, like, you're so pretty. Yeah, so, like, I felt like she became my grandma. I loved her. I miss her. And so when my grandpa died, it was comforting having her around. I'm sorry your grandma has dementia, King. I definitely understand. I mean, that it took my grandpa too. My grandpa died of Alzheimer's. Yeah, it's very, very hard to be, like, forgotten like that. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, if you ever feel the need to talk about it, we're here. Yeah, it's a very awful thing. Okay, the other theme, scary not to know. Accurate knowledge of truth is essential, and for that to be public to truly create a free society. True death comes when everyone has forgotten you. It's important to remember history and humanity in order to pass down that knowledge over the generations. That's how we can prevent history from repeating. And yeah, like, I've felt like in this book, higher education and, like, general education is vital. Yeah, well, I was, like, at work the other day. A customer told me that more and more people are homeschooling their kids because it's just not safe to be in school, in public school in the States anymore. And that made me very sad. Very, very sad. Because it should be a safe space for kids. Your great-grandfather is still alive. He goes through dialysis and he has had 7 strokes within the last 10 months and 4 surgeries at age 97. Damn. Well, I can empathize with you too because my grandma Snow went through dialysis for 5 years. Yeah, all throughout my high school, and then when I was 19, she passed away. But 7 strokes? And he's 97? Damn. He's resilient. Oh, that's your great-grandfather. Oh yeah, Song of Achilles. Achilles chose to go to war and die young to be remembered and live forever. And he sacrificed a long, happy life with Patty to do so. That's the real tragedy. I'm glad you still have him too, Duck. '97 is impressive. But my grandpa was 94 when he died. But his dad was 99 when he died. Okay. I am opening the floor to you guys. So I feel like I've talked a lot. And I would like to hear you guys talk too. Oh, you're homeschooled too, Doug. Oh. Not even the food is good, that's true. Oh. I remember one time in middle school, one of our friends was served a purple pizza. And she's like, nope, I'm not eating that. And that year I stopped eating school food. I ended up going to the vending machine and buying fruit snacks and string cheese every day. I was not healthy. Like, that's too little. I did enjoy the book. I was just like, this is so applicable. This is so fucking applicable. Especially like now. Or it's just like, you turn on the news, it's all propaganda. Because like in the US at least, we're under a fascist regime. Like, it's straight up fascism. I also feel very, very betrayed by the education system in this country. There are so many things that I learned as an adult that's completely different from what the bullshit I was fed at school. so many things, especially about racism and the history of it. I feel very betrayed. So like that made me really happy that in this book, like Sarah's like, okay, we're fixing this problem. We're fixing this problem so the rising generation does not have to deal with this. So many times the police would be at the school gates because you got so many bomb and shooting threats. See, it's just... kids need to be safe. This is why I'm very anti-gun. Like, it's just like, we're one of the top countries in gun deaths. And most of it's children. No. That's why I refuse to teach in this country. You liked hearing about this book too, Dream? I'm glad. Yeah, the education sucks. The education system is so bad here. The schools don't really give a damn about the students and the place they're in. Yep. Yep. And, you know, it's all textbooks written by the white upper class. And so it's like, I was shocked when I read Caste and learned that slavery, the period of slavery, is most of our country's history. And that the period of slavery is like much longer than the period we haven't had the slavery system. Yeah. You like the education themes and the preservation of history. Yep. Yeah, let's talk about what you guys liked. What you guys liked. It's very distressing, yes. Yes. Kids need to be protected. I agree, it does feel like a logical next step for the world of the story. Yes. Because it's like, how do you build? How do you build from a system that was overthrown? An oppressive system that fucked over the citizens and had them so enthralled in their control because of the conveniences that they never questioned anything and never were taught to think for themselves, never taught to be self-reliant. So once that falls apart, what do you do? Well, it's like, first, you know, you do have to be practical, like, you know, Snow and Rigdia, and you have to rebuild. You have to have the evacuations. You have to find new places to live and think about food and, you know, think about the essentials. But it's like, then you really need to build up schools. You really need to educate the masses. And then, you know, create a system that's better. That actually has the best interests of people in mind. Your favorite part was the Sanctum trial in the concert hall. Dude, I lost my shit. It was like a 40-page chapter and I was just sucked in. So badass. You liked learning about World War II. Oh, that's a heavy one. You do love history, learning how stuff happens and how messed up people can be. Oh, I agree. I love history. History's so cool. It's also good to reflect on mistakes made in the past. Yes, and it's important to learn about that so that you don't repeat them. You mean like from the book, the backstory of characters? Yeah, I mean you can talk about themes too. You can talk about like anything that I brought up today. Like you can talk about that. But yeah, I mean, I should learn more about World War II. Oh, that was another thing that's not taught in the books, in the textbooks. Speaking of World War II, Nazism. The Nazis actually took inspiration of how slaves were treated and like took inspiration from the Jim Crow laws. The Jim Crow laws in order to enforce their whole anti-Semitism agenda. They took direct inspiration to how white people treated black people in the Jim Crow laws. The history books here will never teach you that. Never. As an art nerd, art and history go hand in hand. Yes, that's why I love learning art history. Liked how it developed and fleshed out Sarah and other characters. Yes. Yes. I was like, God damn, I relate to Sarah. That's important because she's the main character of 13-2, and it's like, to be honest, I hadn't felt a connection to her yet. I was just like, she's just reminding me that she's not lightning, and I miss lightning. So much of history is preserved through art. Yeah, that's why when they discovered the paintings, like unearthed from Mount Vesuvius's eruption, why that was a huge deal. Because it preserved a lot of history in there through the art that helped us bridge gaps in history. Oh, and that was why when I like learned about the fall of the Incan Empire, why that was horrible, because it destroyed their history. Because they didn't really have a writing system. Saying yeehaw was a form of mockery too when Americans had Chinese as slaves. Whoa. I did not know that. When they said ni hao. Oh, so they would mock them saying yeehaw? See, learning about this kind of shit makes me so upset. Because I lived in Asia. I bet Taylor Swift wasn't ever performed in that concert hall. Oh my god, I'm bringing her up. Okay, I think I'm gonna take these off now. Since I'm done talking about the book. Ah! Ah! Damn, it's already been over 2.5 hours. Do like how the book does feel like a cutscene, unless like reading, but also you're talking about the book and you're not reading. Fair. I mean, it's not a long book. Now I feel like I look weird without the glasses. The book is 169 pages long, so it really is not a long read. So like it's pretty digestible. But I did summarize the whole thing, so... But like summarizing the whole thing's not the same as actually reading it, so I would highly encourage reading it. Yeah, I'm like, well, I don't say yeehaw. At least often. I got it off eBay. I think it was like $10. Oh, Fragments After is also short, but episode 0 is much longer. Gotcha. Yeah, reading this book definitely like helped me understand things a lot more. Yeah, is episode 0 like the prequel to the first game? Because if so, that would help me understand the story of the first game a lot more, because I'm still fuzzy. It is? Okay. That'll definitely be a very good book club. It's your one bit to bring up Taylor Swift. I mean, I guess it's because I'm very vocal about not liking her. You'll look into that because you don't know what stuff happens like in the novellas and books. I mean, I do highly recommend eBay. Plus, some eBay sellers like are like secondhand stores. So then you're, you know, benefiting the planet. Shows Lightning talking about her parents and her meeting Snow for the first time. Oh, I love that. All you know is what's in the games. I mean, that's like what's great. Like, for example, with FF7's compilation, there's On the Way to a Smile, The Kids Are Alright, there's Traces of True Past, and now there's Dear Destiny. So far I've only read Traces and I've read On the Way to a Smile. Puts a lot of necessary context to things that are going on. And like, plus like, I'm an FF7 lore YouTuber. You know, it's like, yeah, I stream, but I do video essays and I'm very known. Well, not very known, but like people know me for the video essays, right? Especially the Tifa and Aerith tropes video. It's like, it's my job, I guess. It's not quite a job because I don't get paid for it much yet, but it's my job to know this stuff. So like, I like reading these books to get all the lore. Yeah, it was called Episode 0 Promise. I think it is. Can't wait to play more 7. You got your PS4 packed up, ready for the move. Oh yeah, you're gonna move. Well, no worries. Like, you'll get into it when you get into it. And besides, Crisis Core is over, so there's no more spoiling. They used stuff from the books in Rebirth. Yes, they did. They did. Yeah, I was so glad that I read Traces before playing Rebirth. I like lost my shit. I was like, this was in Traces. Ah, Traces was so good. I am definitely excited to do Traces for book club eventually. Because I know Traces super well now. Because I've read it a couple times and I've done how many video essays? There was 5 on Tifa and 8 on Aerith. 8 videos. So it'll be easier to prep. I guess this is a good segue to next month's book club. I mean, I guess I can grab it. Oh, now I can officially put Fragments before on my bookshelf. Oh god. He showed up. I lost my shit. No, color code. We're gonna color code. I'll fix her later. Just casually knocking over everything on my bookshelf. You found me from those videos? Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, oh, that was crazy. That was crazy when I put that video out, because I think like I had like under 100 subscribers before I put that video out, and like somebody found it and shared it on Twitter, and suddenly my subscriber count doubled in less than 2 weeks. It was crazy. But then I had to deal with all the insane comments. Oh my god, it was a shitstorm. It was very overwhelming. Stop licking my boobs. Fluffy's gonna defeat Sephiroth. Hell yeah. Okay. Next month's book club. will be this. I think, you know, more people will be able to get involved more with this one because I think more people read this one. So more people should read Fragments before, because that was excellent. Your Loki was bored and searched up FF13 streams and found my first 13 stream. Oh yeah! I was just ending, and then a few days later I looked for 10 and found gameplay 10 too. That's funny. That's really funny. Yeah, so next month will be this, and this will be good because I do want to start making video essays about Advent Children. Yeah, I am gonna get back to video essays. I'm gonna start working on one in May, about the Nibelheim incident. I just need to grab all that footage. I realize I need to grab some OG footage too, so I'm gonna have to boot that game back up. So that is the plan. That is the plan, to start doing video essays from like Crisis Core and from Advent Children. So I think then I've been here since his fate telling me to be here. Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah. I constantly think about how awesome you guys are. Like, I probably wouldn't enjoy streaming as much if you guys weren't so awesome. It was a shit storm for a snowstorm. Fuck off. But yes. Yes. It is crazy. It is crazy to deal with, like, suddenly blowing up. And it's like, it was exciting, don't get me wrong. I was like, finally people are watching my channel, because like I just like had nearly a year like just having 20 subscribers, and then I put out my video about Gongaga, and then suddenly like went to around 100, and then boom, it was crazy. You should take caution joining next book club stream. Yeah. I'm sorry, Doc. Well, you did watch Advent Children, but it's still spoilers. Oh, you watched the Tifa and Aerith video too and scrolled up to the streams. Or strolled up to the streams, whichever. See, it was that one. It was that one that started all. I definitely think that was my best video. Yeah. Oh, but yeah, it was definitely overwhelming. Just, I'm like, oh, like, I'm happy that, you know, so many people are watching, and like the fact that it got over 10K views was insane. Yeah, very validating, because I did work very hard on that video. But yeah, the shippers, that was a shit storm. There was also someone that I had a discipline. It was a lot. But loved that video, and definitely want to make more videos like that in the future. We'll see. Yeah, and you guys are awesome. You guys are so awesome. Yeah, I just really love you guys. Yeah. Whew. We did the first book club stream. Yeah. Yeah, highly recommend that you guys read the book. Yeah, and hopefully in the future they're like with future book club streams, it's books that you guys end up reading, and then we can have really good discussions. I definitely don't want to be yapping the whole time. Though you guys had great input. Very great input. You want to watch my videos if it'll be very spoilery? Yes. Yes. Yeah, beat 7 first. I will say, like, let's, you know, look at my videos. I can I can change my screen back. Oh, there's my thumbnail. I use Canva. I use Canva for my thumbnails. Yeah, I recommend that too. You're a bit disinterested in 7, but seeing how I'm so excited about 7 made you actually start playing 7. Oh, really? Oh, that makes me happy. I guess, you know, that makes sense because everyone fucking talks about 7. For good reason. But it's, you know, I am one of those people that when something's really popular, I usually don't engage with it. Okay. Yeah, I guess just looking at my videos, just for the sake of it. Oh yeah, Tifa and Cloud in Gongaga. You'd have to play Rebirth. You play Remake and Rebirth before watching these. Like, play Remake before watching this one. Behind the scenes, yep. Oh, so you can see my like to dislike ratio. Yeah, okay, this was the one that made my channel blow up. 11,696 views, 222 comments, 592 likes to 48 dislikes. All Claris. Okay, yeah, I like before watching this one, definitely play the OG. Like, I think, like, you know, you're safe to watch it after playing the OG. Yeah, it is pretty safe, but I would like playing Rebirth gives Remake and Rebirth gives more context. But you technically could. You can watch this. I'm pretty sure you can watch this. Play Rebirth, play Rebirth, play Rebirth. Play Rebirth. Play Rebirth, play Rebirth. Play Remake. Oh. Thought about how much you love 13 and it's hated upon and how I get excited just like you do, and I always say give 13 a chance. So I gave so you gave 7 a chance. And now you're enjoying it like I did with 13. Oh, that makes me so happy. That makes me so happy. It's just, it's good to be open-minded. My hair is gross today. Okay, yeah, play Rebirth. Play Remake, play Remake. Well, no, play Rebirth. You can watch this one. Is Yevon a cult? You can watch that one. And then Traces. Oh, that's weird looking at all my videos. Yep, I have Nier Automata videos. Oh, I had fun with this one. Okay. Enough of that. Okay. Oh yeah, it's true. You have to have a PS5 to play Rebirth. Though there is a PC port if you have PC. Otherwise I don't know. I don't know. You can play Remake. Okay. I think we can end this soon. Oh, your first video you commented on was Aerith and Tifa Friendship Done Right Part 1. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, those videos were so important. It's coming to Switch 2, that's right. But I wouldn't get a Switch 2. You guys are so sweet. This is making me very happy. Hearing how you guys discovered me. Oh, it's very sweet. Like, I feel very humbled. But, you know, it just inspires me to work even harder and to keep improving and making better content. Okay, so let me just look at things. Okay, I can check off that I did my book club stream. This is like how I organize my day. You're gonna play remake, then your cousin slapped your hand before buying it and told you to play OG first. Your cousin's right. Oh, the Tamagotchi life videos are hilarious. Okay, so Friday we'll stream 13-2. Saturday we'll stream FF8. Next week, I'm gonna stream on Tuesday and Wednesday. It's gonna be 2 streams next week because Thursday, the first Thursday is a free day at the art museum in the city next to me. So I want to go. So, yeah, and I have 3 days off next week from work. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do two streams next week and then have my day at the museum. So, yeah. You want to try the remake demo? Yeah, you'll be okay. Like, cause remake is just Midgar. It's just the Midgar section. Technically, you could play remake now because you did do the Midgar section in the OG. But I would still recommend finishing OG before playing remake because a lot of shit from like OG that's later on factors in. So I think, yeah, you technically can. You won't be here for the 13-2 stream because that's the day of the move. That's fair. That's fair. Do whatever you need to do. You don't need to come to every single stream. Like, if you can't, you can't. So, I wish you luck with your move, though. I think that's on Friday. That's the day of my little brother's birthday. Ah, it makes me feel old. Yeah. All right. So I think we can wrap up now. Any final things you guys want to say before I go? Hey, shitstorm of a snowstorm. Remake runs well on PS4, just the DLC is PS5 only. Oh, that is true. I do need to play the DLC. I need to get it and play it. I'll stream it once I can get it. I'll get it on Steam since I already own Remake. Yeah. Oh, shoo's all sleepy. You want to? I love supporting people now that I think about it. We play a lot of support characters in video games. Well, that's sweet. That's a sweet it's a sweet thing to do. And you do a great job. You've been very helpful. I really appreciate it. Alright. Well, I guess this is it. Thank you guys for joining the first book club stream. I'm glad that you guys enjoyed it. Yeah, next month will be On the Way to a Smile. I will make an announcement about that. Yeah, we'll do the same thing then. We'll talk about setting, characters, the story, and the themes. So miracles can come true. Yes, Vanille. Yeah, it was a fun stream. Yeah, it was definitely fun. I think it would be fun to have rant streams every now and then where we just talk about stuff. Yeah, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day or night, and I will see you guys on Friday. Bye.